So when I was thinking about what I was going to say tonight, the first thing that came to my mind was, it was so random seemingly. It was this feeling I used to get when I was in middle school and high school, when we would all come together for an assembly, and we were all sitting there and just, we were doing the Pledge of Allegiance, or there was a song that everyone was singing, and I used to remember feeling like, this is what I want. I want to be a part of something that's bigger. I want to be a part of a community. I didn't put my finger on it, but I just knew that I had always had that feeling. So I don't know why that came to me today, but I guess, I started to realize that my whole life had been about this search for something bigger. And I knew that I was meant to do something that was bigger, which was really uncomfortable, especially because I was like 12 years old, right? And that's a lot of pressure. And so I was just constantly on the search and never feeling quite comfortable where I was, because I always felt like I haven't found that thing yet. So when I was in college, I came across this essay called The Meaning of Social Entrepreneurship by Gregory Dees. And it's the first time that I read something and I felt like, whoa, someone's reading my mind. This is exactly what I've been thinking. And so then I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a social entrepreneur. And so I ended up randomly also getting into a class that was oversubscribed, that was the history of the American environment. And it was totally random. I mean, it was the last day, the absolute last day where you could drop a class. My mentor there said, you're never going to get into this. Try and apply for next year. There was a wait list of 300 people. But there was a fluke in the system. They let me in, and then the teacher let me stay. And this one class completely changed my life. So if you've ever read Bill Cronin, amazing historian, environmental historian, and the first class, he traced the history of the American environment from the perspective of a loaf of bread. And it blew my mind, and it made me think about all the interconnections that there are in the world. So next, I said, okay, I thought sustainability is where I want to be focused. So I took a sustainable business class. Someone came to the class, said, if you want to be into sustainability, come with me to Sri Lanka, and we'll learn about it hands-on. So I said, all right, I'll do that. Went to Sri Lanka, had this amazing time, came back and said, all right, I'm going to create this business plan, go to Sri Lanka. The tsunami happened. And so I was no longer going to Sri Lanka. I ended up in Israel, was really happy there, but when I was in Israel, I realized I wanted to get into green building. So I came back to the States to go back to school. I ended up at the new school, where I was in the nonprofit management program, not green building, but I wanted to get back to school immediately, and it was the first program that I could get into. So while I was there, I met with this guy. He was the only person doing social entrepreneurship and sustainability, named Nevin Cohen. Some of you may know him. And I said, I really want to do sustainability, green building. He said, well, I deal with food. And I said, food's not for me. And later that night, or later in the year, a friend of mine said, you know what? I had a friend who did a program called Arco Santi. It's in the desert in Arizona. And you can learn hands-on green building. So I went and I learned hands-on green building, but it wasn't exactly what I thought. It was a cult. I lived in a cult for basically 6 weeks. It was the craziest experience I've ever had. But there was this mad scientist there who had this idea for something that he called an energy apron, and it was this greenhouse that was terraced on a mesa, and that all of the heat from it would go and power the city, all of the waste would power the greenhouse. And I thought, wow, this is so brilliant. And so I dropped out of my master's program, and I said, I have to work in building integrated agriculture. As it so happened, there was a company that was starting up called Bright Farm Systems, and so I begged them, and I told them, you have to hire me. And that's how I came to food. Okay, so accelerating the story a little bit. while I was at Bright Farm Systems, I started using Twitter for PR and business development, and I had this huge aha moment where I realized that there was all this data we needed as a company that was being shared openly on the internet, on Twitter, on Facebook, things like prices paid to producers, how much food was being grown in the city. We didn't have that data, we needed it to make business decisions, but people were openly sharing it everywhere. And so I said, what if we were to scrape it all together? Now, at this point, I didn't even know what that meant because I was that person who always deleted files, I couldn't find things, technology scared me. But I started researching it, and I started using Twitter aggressively and meeting people, and connecting with some of the technology luminaries. I mean, I got invited to go to a conference. Marshall Kirkpatrick, who was a journalist at the Read Write Web, was one of the people that would always delicious his articles. So I was one of the first people. So I randomly got invited to a conference with him. Just these random connections that started emerging just because I was using Twitter, because I was conversing with people. Anyway, to fast track, I had all these ideas about open data, agriculture. I started writing about them, and all of a sudden, people from all over the world started reaching out to me to talk to me about what they were working on. So I started interviewing them, and then it kept on growing. So I started hosting events to connect people, and that's how I kind of got where I am today. So by writing, I got invited to go to the White House, where I started to bring the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, Kathleen Merrigan, into the fold of this community. I've gotten invited to speak at health conferences. I've been with Tim O'Reilly. I've been with entrepreneurs. I've been with farmers. And all along the way, just sharing this message of how opening up information, how opening up data and technology can create this better future and this better world. And that's where we've gotten to today. And what's been really exciting is that this thing that started off as a small idea, and the path to getting there was really strange, and it was really winding, and it was random. And what I've learned along the way is that sometimes you have to be open to letting the world kind of knock you around so that you find your way. I couldn't imagine doing anything else other than this, and I'm really excited to be here with all of you. And the fact that something that started off as this kernel of an idea that people thought was crazy, the idea of food and technology, 4 years ago, literally people would say, this is, batshit crazy, it's never gonna happen. It's happening. We're all a testament to that. Last year I got to go to a conference on open agricultural data that the G8 put on, and Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack said, data is the future of agriculture. And that's what we're all doing here. And so I'm really excited that we are all a community and that I'm a part of your village and you're a part of mine.